Class, in our last update, we talked about the external environment. So now let's look internally. Let's look at the internal environment. Organizations also need to analyze their strengths and weaknesses. That's what the internal analysis is. So for those of you who are familiar with a SWOT analysis, strengths and weaknesses is the other half of that. So one thing that is part of this internal analysis is the core capabilities of the company. A firm's success is often based on establishing a set of core capabilities. These are the abilities that distinguish the organization from its competitors and creates value to the customers. Core capabilities consist of three different resources. We have our processes, which are those recipes or standard routines of how the work will be done and how results will be accomplished. Next is our systems or technology. These top-notch systems are a part of the core capabilities, depending on the industry. And last but not least, number three is our people. People are a key resource that underlies a firm's capabilities. So let's talk a little bit about people. Companies can achieve a sustained competitive advantage through their people if they meet certain criteria. And that criteria includes they must be valuable, rare, difficult to imitate, and they must be organized. So these four things are important of people and show the closeness of human resources to the big picture of the strategic management in general, in broad terms. Now, some of the trends that include strategic knowledge workers, core employees, supporting workers, and partners. So let's chat a little bit about them. Our strategic knowledge workers is a group of employees that tends to have unique skills directly linked to the company's strategy and are difficult to replace. These employees typically are engaged in knowledge work that involves considerable autonomy. Next, we have our core employees. This group of employees has skills that are quite valuable to a company, but not particularly unique or difficult to replace. These employees tend to be employed in traditional types of jobs, and managers frequently make less investment in their training and development, and they do tend to pay more for the short-term performance achievements. Next, we have our supporting workers. Now, this group typically has skills that are less central to creating customer value and generally available in the labor market. Individuals in these jobs are often hired from external agencies, maybe on a contract basis, to support that strategic knowledge workers and our core employees. The scope of their duties tends to be limited, and their employment relationships tend to be transaction-based and focused on rules and procedures, less on investing in their development. And the last group are our external partners. This is a group of people whose skills are unique and specialized, but frequently not directly related to companies' core strategies. Although the company perhaps cannot justify their internal employment given that the direct link to the firm's strategy. These individuals have skills that are specialized and not readily available to all firms. So when we're looking at our internal composition of the workforce, we want to take a look at our knowledge workers, our core employees, our supporting workers, and any external partners that we might have. Corporate culture also plays a huge role. Since managers are increasingly understand that employees are critical to their success, they often conduct cultural audits to examine their values, attitudes, beliefs, and expectations. These audits can help firms decide upon the strategic investments and that their culture lends them to. Since we're talking about culture, I think it's important important to mention values-based hiring. We are seeing a lot of this in the workforce today. Now, many firms try to hire those employees whose values correspond to their corporate culture. This practice is referred to as values-based hiring, and it involves outlining the behaviors that exemplify a firm's corporate culture and then hiring people who are fit for them. I'd love to use a personal example here. Orasti, the soft tissue rehabilitation company I worked for, they actually use values-based hiring. And what they do is they look for people who, what they call, have a Rastafarian DNA. So it's somebody who is there to truly help. They're not there to make money, they're there to improve the lives of the patients. So that, I think, is a great example. Plus, I love the fact that they look for Rastafarian DNA. It's just adorable. So that's one thing that we are seeing a lot of companies. That's very similar to Google and Facebook and all of those best places to work for. They built this very strong culture, and people and employees want to go and work for them, that culture, because it's part of them. So that definitely is a win-win situation. And the last thing that I want to chat about in this video, because I know I'm getting close on time here, is forecasting. So an internal analysis of an organization can reveal a great deal about what it stands for today. But things change. In an important sense, strategic planning is about managing that change. So managers focus on at least 3 key elements: forecasting the demand for labor, forecasting the supply of labor, and balancing that supply and demand considerations. Once a company has assessed both the supply and the demand for employees' skills, talent, and know-how, it can begin to understand that human capital readiness. Any difference between the quantity and quality of employees required versus the quantity and quality of employees available represents a gap that needs to be corrected. And I think that's a great example of our internal analysis. So again, internal analysis includes the core capabilities, using our employees as a competitive advantage, and taking a look at the composition of our current workforce and how we utilize it.